Hi, I'm back, and today we are talking about narcissistic bosses and bullies at work. But you know that I love making people think differently. So I'm going to put a twist on it. And I really would like you guys to pay attention because you're gonna go like, oh, what is she smoking? That will be the question of yours by the end. But if these two topics, narcissistic bosses and bullies at work, resonate with you, stay with me because I am going to give you the antidote to narcissist, and I try to make you think differently about bullies at work in leadership and managerial roles we are talking about, okay? So hi, I'm Sylvia, an organizational psychologist, and I'm bringing you my articles that I have written last year to the online community here on YouTube. So those of you who don't particularly like to read, you can still get the information. However, I will put all the links below. One thing that we need to get out of the way, because sometimes people ask you guys, you're asking me about advice about your mental health or anything. Now, organizational psychologists, we study human psychology, but we are not qualified to diagnose, to give advice, to do anything like that, okay? The difference between us and clinical psychologists that they also study human behavior, human psychology, but they are qualified to treat and deal with people. We are not. So if you have issues, please go look for a psychiatrist or a clinical psychologist, because I will never give you any advice on mental health or anything like that. Us organizational psychologists, we studied same human psychology, we study human behavior, and we apply them in the workplace. And narcissism is one of those. So that's why I'm talking about those issues, personality disorders and all that, but I'm not allowed, and I'm not qualified, obviously, to diagnose someone that, hey, that person is a narcissist. I would never make that claim. I like to call them, or call it narcissist characteristic, right? Or tendencies, but I would never say somebody is depressed, somebody is narcissist, or anything like that. They demonstrate the characteristics of a depressed person. It's the symptoms of depression, but I can't make that claim. So please, this is what I do. Organizational psychology, take human behavior and apply it in the world of work. So today what we are going to apply is bullies and narcissist. So let's start with narcissistic bosses. I've been lucky to have two in my life. Once again, narcissistic characteristics I'm talking about. And they are everywhere, because unfortunately or fortunately is not a good thing or bad thing. It's just what it is, right? What is the unfortunate part is that will be managed probably by some, because around 5% of the population has narcissistic personality disorder. So these are the ones that are diagnosed, right? And then you have the ones that are just having the symptoms or the characteristics of those ones, but they are not diagnosed. So because of that data, it's likely that you will be managed by someone like that. You will be working with someone like that. You will be friends with someone or marry them. You never know. But the moment you know what are the characteristics, you can start paying attention and manage them better. It is very, very difficult. If you end up with a narcissistic boss, my advice to you is go, run. It's terrible. It really is. It's very difficult. However, there are some ways of overcoming that. And here it is. That's what we are going to talk about today. And let's start with the signs. What is the behavior, right? And the first one I would like to talk about, before we do that, you remember I have my notes, just that's why I'm looking at. But before we do that, why is that a problem in organization and whose problem is that? Now it's L&D's problem. Unfortunately, I know it's your problem as well because you will be managed to working together with one of those. But it's L&D's problem because L&D is being called in to train, coach, and guide these people. But what can you do as an unqualified person to manage someone with personality disorder? Nothing. So even if I am coaching one of those, I can look for the signs, right? And I have a degree in psychology. But imagine that those people who don't. And even I would not be comfortable, and I would never make this claim. But I would have to say, okay, maybe the person needs help. Because I know narcissists who are going through they have their own coaches, psychologists. And this is going on for decades for those two I know. And there is no such a thing as we are going to cure you. There is no such a thing as they get the treatment. It's an ongoing coaching process. And this is what narcissists need. And organizations are not equipped to deal with this situation. So therefore, we let them run around and cause damage because they do cause damage, unfortunately. But once again, it's the problem for L&D because they are called, they are going into a fight, a war without weapon, okay? That's never going to end well. Now, let's look at their behavior because they make me laugh. I mean, they are very difficult to work with. So narcissistic bosses always put themselves in a situation where they can be the hero or the victim. Most of the time, the hero. So I had my boss, she would always come with the story, you know, nobody took on this project and I was the one. Nobody did this, you know, there was a police case, nobody wanted to speak to the police. I was the one who spoke to the police. So there was always something. Now, this is the majority of their delusion. Then you have those situations when they are the victims. And they always fall victim to their self-inflicted wound. So they do something to themselves, and all of a sudden, you see what they did to me? Real stories. Real stories. When, for example, let me give you an example. When a narcissist boss being called out and caught doing something, they will turn it around and make it that it's your fault. Because now they are the victim. And they are extremely good at that. Now let's go to the other signs. The second one is it's all about them. Everything is all about them. Life, food, everything. So we used to have this morning briefing and we would sit around and we hardly ever talked about work. It was all about her. My cousin, my sister, my brother, I'm sick. The fire alarm went off during the night. And this is how we spend company resources, time on us listening to her predicament, right? And it's all about them, what happened to them. And you have to sometimes sit there for an hour and listen, right? I clearly remember once my boss called me that, oh, can you please take me to the hospital? I'm very ill. Now you need to know that I hate medical areas, hospitals. So I'm the last one who will go. I need to die for me to go into a hospital. And I said, of course, you're not going to refuse anybody who is sick, right? So I take her to the hospital, blah, blah, blah. I spend the whole morning with her. And later on, I hear that, oh, Sylvia wanted to take me to the hospital because she saw how poorly I was. I'm like, I would never volunteer in a million years. So these are the stories that they create. So, and then that leads to another characteristics, that they have fantasies of greatness. So their fantasy, the imagination is going wide. And is also about greatness. They are the best at everything. they would create stories that you can never imagine in your wildest imagination or dreams, right? They magnify everything. They show success, power, and brilliance. They create stories. So we tested this theory about narcissists with my colleagues. So we created stories during the morning briefing, weird stories. Oh, you know, this is what happened to my cousin. And then she would say, yeah, that happened to my friend as well, or to her family. And we came up with weird stories, and we had the best laugh at her. We came up with weird stories, and she could relate to all of our stories. You know, I have 3 boyfriends, and she would be, you know, there was a time when I had 3 boys. I'm like, oh my God. We couldn't come up with the story that she would not say, yes, I know, it's me, happened to me, my family, or I know somebody that happened to her. That's that. But the worst part of narcissism is the narcissistic cycle, as it is called in psychology. Now let's start with that, because that I could see in her very clearly. They love bomb you, right? And if you want to learn about narcissistic behavior, follow on YouTube Dr. Ramani. She's really good. That's her specialty. And I learn a lot from her. Even these points, most of them are from her. So at first, you will be the best thing. You will be, you know, they will be like, oh, I cannot do without you. You are the best thing. When you are, and then when you are no longer useful to them, or when you point out things, they change tactics. So that happened to me. Oh, you are the best at things. And when I started pointing out things that were wrong, now all of a sudden I became not only the enemy, it's just you are no longer useful to them. So they change. And this is when it gets nasty with them, because they devalue your opinion, your feeling, or observations. They criticize you and gaslight you. What they really do is you hurt their ego, and they try to turn everybody against you. They create a new reality where you start questioning yourselves. I'm like, am I wrong in here? You know? And they twist and turn. And this is when I, for example, and you have to also step back from the situation and say just, okay, I'm not taking part. And I cut her off completely. And that's one of the ways of managing a narcissist. You get down to business. There's no more conversation, just work. Very short, matter-of-fact kind of conversations, nothing more, nothing less. So once you cut the relationship, first, the narcissist will play the victim and create situations where they need your help so they can get close to you again. And this was the hospital situation. She wasn't sick. She wasn't sick, I know. Anyway, so that was the situation. Why did she pick me to take her to the hospital? This is my last thing, and she knew that probably. So they create these scenarios where they can get close to you. And when it fails, when they realize that you are done with them, this is when they start turning other people around you, or against you. And they create chaos. So everybody gets lost in that chaos. This particular person was really good at talking to every one of us about the others. And at the end, but she didn't know that we were very, very close, so we actually knew what was happening. But there were some times when it worked for like few days. And I had to be the smartest than the others, that, hey, is that really? I'm like, I don't believe he said that. I don't believe she would say that, you know? But you really never knew what was the truth. And that plays to them, right? Because now they have their entire team against each other, which is a horrible working environment. And if you are not behind the scenes, like I was a little bit, you know, with the other ones, you get lost. And so they manipulate everybody, and you really don't know what is the truth anymore. So don't fall for it, because that's their game. And And that's that. And so you know that this game is over. When that happens, you go, because they always twist reality. And you just get so tired of playing it and always being on top of things, even though you're not doing anything, because you know that something is she or he will twist reality, that it takes so much energy that you just go like, you know what, screw that shit. I'm not doing it. Like, I'm not even bothered anymore to explain myself because I haven't done anything, right? So how you deal with them is really, first of all, clear boundaries, just a matter of fact, and not play into their tactics. Don't get into conversations because they are very intelligent. They twist and turn things. Even if you are right, you get lost. I'm like, what? Because you know that you haven't done anything. So don't get into conversations, very clear boundaries. And when they realize their tactics don't work, then they leave you alone and they move on to the next one. But don't get in their way, because then they go for you. And they are very ruthless. And not only ruthless, I think they are very intelligent. And that is the problem. Now, other traits are zero respect for boundaries. They are using the divide and conquer strategy, which I explained. They make you feel like shit. And, you know, they really start this passive aggression and this punishment over everything. Sometimes punishment, I don't invite you for here, or, you know, it could be really anything, but they manipulate everybody around you. Mood swings, that is very much characteristic. Never admit mistakes, always blame others. They forget to deny their actions and behaviors. And they are real charmers. So don't fall for them. They use anger and aggression as a tool. So these are the ones, she used to scream and shout and all that. And I'm like, what is the matter with the woman? And then I had the other guy, he was nothing close to her. Now, but what they don't know what to do, or what is the best antidote, is authenticity. Authenticity is the best, because authentic people are very calm, very composed. They don't really get bothered by anybody, and they keep things matter of fact, right? A narcissistic person who's creating stories, living in a fantasy world, don't know what to do with them, because these guys are grounded, right? They're just content. They know who they are. They live in their purpose. You know, everything that they say, that they do, that they think, that they feel is aligned. And narcissistic personalities, they're actually jealous of that, because they are just chaos inside. They are not having a good time. Believe me or not, believe it or not, they are not having a good time. There's such a turmoil within them that is eventually it catches up with them, and it's just not a pretty sight. But hey, I hope that helps. Now let's move on to the bullies. And I promised you a twist, right? So narcissistic is over. And bullies. Now, I think we were wrong, or we are wrong about bullies. And the latest research also showed this. So I'm going to look at this research. And so we have been told many, many times that bullies lack confidence and self-esteem. And they compensate with this aggressive behavior, you know, like small dogs. But is that true? You have been told even that, you know, people with lack of empathy are emotionally unintelligent, but that's not true. We already know that. Bullies also known exactly, bullies, just like people with lack of empathy, or they deemed to be very lack of empathy, they know what they do. So bullies, and they do it, they know the impact, the impact of the action, and that's why they are doing it. not because of lack of self-esteem, not because of lack of confidence. They know that if they behave in a certain way, they will get what they want. So they are actually quite smart. And they are not as emotionally low as we were told. So the latest research shows that bullies are often overly confident in how they perceive themselves and how others view their behavior. Yes, of course, there are some bullies who have low self-esteem, but it doesn't appear to be the case in most instances. So that once my friend and I, we were talking, and I just casually asked, I'm like, what is the evolutionary purpose of a bully? Because Mother Nature has a reason for everything. And if I'm not sure in anything in life, that must be the only thing that I'm sure. And so I'm like, what is the reason? What is the biological base for that, evolutionarily speaking? And my friend, very casually, who doesn't have any psychology background, he said that because there was it must be a natural process, a screening process, so the weak cannot get into leadership positions. And I was like, okay, I didn't really entertain the idea, I didn't really dismiss it. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. But then I didn't look into it. I didn't, advance this thought. But he was so right based on this research. So let's look at what the study shows. The study supports the evolutionary process theory that there is a biological explanation for bullying because bullies benefit from being aggressive. That is contrary to the theory that bullies are often exhibiting this type of behavior because they have difficult home or school lives or have been the target of bullying or harassment themselves, which was the common belief, right? Now, our ancestors, pay attention to this because now I'm going to link it to leadership and management. And this is the purpose of that behavior. Our ancestors used aggression to defend territory and attract mates to produce the best offspring. So it may be that bullying is a contemporary way that people are expressing this drive. And during our conversation with my friends, I said it, if it's Mother Nature's handiwork, I love her, then maybe trying to stop this behavior is wrong, is useless, because you can't beat Mother Nature, right? And what is the study? What did the study confirm? Exactly the same, because we can't stop innate behavior. Even narcissist is an innate behavior. We need to manage them, right? And narcissist and bully, if you look at, they are separate, but there is some overlap in there. So what did the study say? Rather than trying to teach bullies to stop their innate behavior, the researchers suggest that their aggression should be funneled into other activities, which I said without even looking into it. So maybe it is time that we looked at bullying at work differently and see it for what it is most likely, which is territorial protection and the desire to be at the top of the food chain, or in this case, the corporate hierarchy. So this is what I wrote. And if it is the case, how can we tame these guys to leverage their talent, their desire for dominance, their drive? What kind of work environment is suitable for them? Is it small companies, large organization, profit, non-profit? How would a man like that respond to a female boss? Or vice versa? What do they consider to be a threat? There are millions of questions that this study is raising. Millions of questions. How do we build a training program out of this? Should we opt for coaching? I would opt for coaching because I know that works with them. If I had to decide, definitely, because that works with alpha males as well. alpha narcissistic bullies? Not the same, but there is a lot of overlapping behavior. So knowing this information, what do we do with corporate bullies? Because let's be honest, if it's an innate program, a workshop was, please don't bully others, it's not going to work. Yeah? And here is my thought. If it's Mother Nature's work, how can we play her game the way she intended it? Has she given us bullies to lead us, and our job is to tame them? Are those the naturally born leaders, and we have mistaken them for being aggressive and the enemy of society that must be eradicated, the behavior? Are those the people Jordan Peterson talks about when he says, a harmless man is not a good man? A good man is a very dangerous man who has that under voluntary control. And as I was writing this article, one more thing crossed my mind. Carson Tucker said something this year at the World Government when he was asked why he didn't hold Putin responsible for the killing of people. And his answer won't leave my mind up until today. The more I think about it, the more I say, you know what, he's right. At first I was like, what did he just say? But now I'm adding 1 + 1 together. And he said, killing people is part of leadership. Wasn't he right? Just look around in the world today and in the past. It's the same in organizations. Leaders who succeed are not scared of taking actions that they think are necessary. There is, when you come between the goals and them, they will deal with you. That is a sign of a successful leader in any organization. And somehow we translated it as a toxic leadership or bullying behavior. They have their eyes on the goal and will do anything to achieve it. Isn't that what we want from leaders? However, the way they go about it is what makes the difference. Keeping it under voluntary control. Maybe that's what we need to train or coach these guys on. Maybe voluntary control is what the research suggests in the world of work, funneling into other activities. What do you think of that? Are bullies, the untamed bullies, the naturally born leaders? Here I'm not talking about the idiots who have, failed to control their aggression and behavior, or, suffering from emotional dysregulation. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about highly competent people who we label bullies and toxic and maybe even narcissists. Are those the ones who are the natural leaders of the world? We just so misunderstood them that now we just want to eradicate the whole thing instead of, hey, we need to fine-tune you. We need to polish those because you have what it takes to lead, but you just come across really rough and we don't want to follow. Have we got the bullies so wrong? Are they the natural leaders? I don't know. I will put the articles below. And you guys decide. Or don't decide. Just think about it. Because I don't have the answer. Nobody has the answer. But it's certainly something that it's been on my mind for a while. Because there is nothing in nature, in life, that is not supposed to be there. And you know what? Maybe bullies are born to lead. But in the current environment, that manifestation of the manifestation of their original aggression, which goes protect, conquer, get food, How do you do that in an office environment? You can't even blame them. Now, I was talking to my psychologist, clinical psychologist friend about that, and she said, you know what, true, and talking about about this topic within this context could actually help, because we go and approach them in a negative way. Hey, you are a bully, you are this, you are toxic, you are narcissist. And everybody who you approach like that will shut down immediately. So maybe explaining it to them that, hey, whatever you behave, that behavior is natural. You are the born leader, but we need to channel that into something useful. And you can't go around and hurt people. This is what Peterson is saying. You have to be a dangerous man, but you must have it under voluntary control. And it means you don't hurt people. You have. Because that's what you were born for. That's all I have for you today. I think it's enough to think about, okay? So you had the narcissists, you have the bullies, who maybe got completely wrong. I don't know. Let me know below what you think, because this topic fascinates me and I think I'm going to dive into it even deeper. But first I need to digest that. Read the article. I mean, I read it out a little bit. But yeah. Well, thank you. And next time we talk about something else. Bye.